What's up everybody? Welcome to World War Armies PvP RTS, formerly known as World War Commander PvP RTS. Today I'm going to be talking about tips and tricks for new and veteran players alike. Before we get into the tips and tricks, I did want to let you guys know this video is sponsored by Hype Masters. Now, if you want to try out the game, there is a link in the description to the Android store where you can download the early access version of the game. Unfortunately for iOS users, the game isn't currently available, but you can still find it in the App Store and pre-register. There's also going to be a link in the description to the World War Armies Discord and my own personal Discord if you want to chat about the game or any future videos you'd like to see. Alright, let's get straight into the tips and tricks. Alright, so tip number one is your starting infantry. The infantry unit you'll start the game with is the cheapest tier 1 infantry you put in your deck. This means that whatever your cheapest unit is, even if it's a flamethrower squad, will be your starting unit. You can use this to start the game with a much more powerful unit than a rifleman or a Volksgrenadier. But the more expensive your starting infantry, the slower it'll be to make new units and start capturing valuable resource points, because obviously they're going to cost more and they're going to have longer cooldowns. I personally like to start with an engineer squad since it has good utility, and once you get to the tier 2 you can start repairing your vehicles as soon as you make them, even in combat. But starting with a mortar or even a Jaeger squad can be very powerful for better early game combat potential. Alright, my second tip, this might seem obvious, but if you don't know it, it's really important to know about it. You can zoom out. Obviously, this is not immediately obvious to you. Anyone who's used a mobile device will likely be familiar with the motion used to zoom out. You place two fingers on the screen, spread them apart to zoom out, pinch them together to zoom in. This might seem obvious, but if you haven't noticed it yet, and you haven't realized you can do it, it makes a big difference. Obviously, the more of the map you can see, the better off you are. If you can see more, then you're more likely to win a game, and you can control your units much more effectively. Tip number 3 is the resource crates. There are 2 resource crates that will drop at the start of the game. You can see on the loading screen where these resource crates are going to be. It'll pop in on the loading screen, you can see where they're at. Each of these resource crates will give you 100 supply. It's way better to get the resource crates than to cap your initial points, because 100 supply is 1 minute 40 seconds of controlling a resource point. Clearly it's better to get these crates than it is to capture the points early. You can also capture the points with your units that you produce after your initial units that head towards the crates. I personally like to start with combat units straight to the crate and then make mortar squadrons. Mortar squadrons can capture your back points and have enough range to still help you fight at the resource crate, which can be a huge advantage on that resource crate. A new resource crate is going to drop every 3 minutes in the game. It's shown in the left hand side of the map. You can see underneath the mini-map there's a little timer telling you how long till the next resource crate. Each resource crate will give you more income the later into the game you go. The first one will give you 400 resources, which is a huge jump from the 100 resources of the initial resource crates. These are really important to capture. There are a lot of resources. And also, it feels like a bit of a combat mechanic, because I'm pretty sure the resource crates tend to drop on the side of the player with less captured points. So, those resource crates, they can be really important to get, and you need to fight over them. Alright, tip number 4 is about the economy in the game. Your income is shown in the top right. If you tap the little supply icon, you can see details about all of your income and your upkeep. This is going to tell you how much income you have and where it's coming from. As you get more units, your income is going to get reduced by a percentage depending on how many units you have. Between 8 to 10, you're going to lose 25% of your income. 11 to 13, you're going to lose 50% of your income. And at 14 to 15, you're going to lose 75% of your income. Now this obviously means that the larger a fighting force you want to maintain, the less income you're going to be getting every second. Tiers 2 and 3 both give you more pop cap and more income. So getting up to tier 2 and 3 quicker can be a huge advantage in the game. You're going to get more money and you're going to have more units available on the field. Now each unit you keep alive is still worth keeping units alive. I want to make this very clear. Even though more units means you get less income, each unit you preserve, it's one more unit you're not going to need to buy again. And then each unit that survives a long time, you're going to get veterancy on those units. Units that get kills are going to get veterancy. Veterancy is shown by little chevrons next to the symbol on the unit. and it's going to increase their stats in combat. This can be a huge boost. Veteran units are much stronger than recruit units. So you really want to try and keep units alive throughout the game, both for the monetary reasons and because veterans are way stronger. Okay, tip number 5 is about the observation post. The observation post is a building you can build on your resource point. It costs 150 and it gives you 1 supply a second. A normal resource point will give you 1, so one with an observation post will give you 2. So this thing pays for itself after 2.5 minutes, because it gives you 1 supply a second, costs 150, after 2.5 minutes you're going to be getting income back from this thing. Now another interesting thing to note about the observation post, you start getting that income as soon as you start building it, not when it finishes. Games of World War Armies tend to be around 10 minutes to maybe a little over 10 minutes. I'd say that most games you're looking at probably, unless you dominate and destroy your opponent's HQ, you're going to be looking at like 10 minutes plus. So if you build these things in the first few minutes of the game, they're very easily going to pay for themselves and then give you even more resources back. Also, they stop your opponent from capturing your back points. If there's an observation post there, your opponent simply can't capture the resource point. So they're definitely a good investment early on. Okay, tip number 6 is about repairs. The engineer unit can repair buildings and vehicles. The Opel Blitz from Germany can repair vehicles and heal infantry, but doesn't appear to be able to heal buildings at all. Now, an interesting thing about engineers, they heal a percentage, not a number healing. So heavy vehicles repair at the same speed as light ones. This is a huge bonus for really heavy armor like the Mouse and the M6 Heavy, which have gigantic hit point pools. So these things with an engineer can become nigh on indestructible. Tip number 7 is Indirect Fire. Indirect Fire units use an arcing trajectory to fire their munitions. This means you have to be careful where you place them. These munitions can actually be blocked by terrain and buildings and so on the map. So make sure your mortars, make sure your mortars and your priests are not sitting directly behind buildings, because they will simply fire into that building over and over and over, and they won't do any damage. So you've got to be really careful about where you place them. Make sure they're not blocked by the terrain. Sometimes they can even hit things like fences, so really be careful where you place these guys. If you see an explosion on them, then they're probably hitting themselves by accident. There is no friendly fire in the game though, so don't worry about them killing themselves. Don't worry, the same is true for artillery. You can artillery yourself, it doesn't do damage to your units. There's no friendly fire. But mortars will accidentally hit buildings directly in front of them, so make sure they have a clear trajectory to hit their targets. Now, of course, obviously mortars also can't fire while they're inside a house, because there's a roof, and they need a clear line of fire to fire those mortars. Alright, so tip number 8 is about the reinforcement ability from Erich von Wagner, the German commander. Currently, you get units equal to the level of the commander. This means that you're going to need to level up Erich von Wagner if you want those units to be better. You're going to get a tank destroyer and a tier 2 infantry. Specifically, it's a Panzerjäger and a machine gun right now. If they release commanders for other factions, I suspect you will get the tank destroyer and tier 2 infantry from those factions instead. But it is going to be based on the level of the commander, not based on the level of that unit in your collection. So you're going to need to level up the commander, not that unit, if you want this ability to be useful. Okay, tip number 9 is circle strafing. Anyone who has played Company of Heroes will already be familiar with this. Circle strafing is where you go around a unit that doesn't have a turret faster than it can rotate. This means the unit can never target you, because you're never ever in its line of fire. This means you can kill an enemy unit that doesn't have a turret with your own turreted vehicle, like a tank or a greyhound, something of that nature, without taking any damage or ever really getting into any danger, because you can never get shot. You're too fast for them to track you. Now, this also seems to work against flame troopers. Flamethrower squads seem to target ground instead of units. I think this is probably because they have the AoE. They want to be able to hit anything that's in the area, which means they don't really target the unit, they target the ground. However, this has the potentially unintended side effect that you can run around flame troopers and they can't hit you. it actually seems like a lot of units have quite a hard time locking onto moving targets. So running around things like flamers or MGs or stugs while shooting them with your indirect fire units can be a really powerful strategy, especially if you're trying to contest a resource crate. It can be a really good idea to mortar the flamer whilst the unit on the crate stops them from capping it and simply runs around in circles so it can't be targeted. Okay, so tip number 10 is about retreating, or more specifically, the fact that you can cancel retreating. Now, when you use a retreat order, your unit is going to start heading back to your HQ, and it's going to get a speed boost, and that's going to make it very difficult for enemy units to kill it. However, you don't have to retreat all the way back to the base. You can cancel a retreat at any time. You can cancel it by pressing the retreat button again, or you can cancel it by simply giving a new order to the squad while selecting it. You can give them a move order or an attack order, and they'll cancel their retreat and now follow the new order. This can be really useful for getting your units out of the line of fire, especially units like mortars. An enemy walks up to your mortar, you can start retreating, and then cancel the retreat once you're out of range of the enemy unit, and start firing again. You can also use this to dodge the direct strike from the USA General Dwight McLaughlin. You can hit the retreat, and once you're outside the circle, just cancel the retreat and start fighting again. Okay, and my final tip is about the reinforcement crate. This is a slightly odd one, but here it goes. The reinforcement crates give you more cards as you rank up. So as you progress along the path of glory, you're going to get more cards depending on your rank from the reinforcement crate. So here you can see the number of cards you get. This is my rank currently, I'm a captain. This is how many ranks you get here as a captain. And then over here, this is a screenshot from someone who has achieved Field Marshal rank, which is the 15,000 points. As you can see, he's getting 96 to 104 cards per reinforcement crate compared to my 21 to 32. So what this means is the further you can go, the higher you can rank up before you invest in reinforcement crates, the better bang for your buck you're going to get out of them. So what I did is simply bought some reinforcement crates to get units that I wanted to unlock. I got mortars and, you know, the Wesp and the Stug and things like that. And I've gotten to reasonable levels. And now I'm simply trying to rank up with the levels I have before I buy more reinforcement crates, because I want to get more cards for the same number of tokens. Alright, so I hope you guys enjoyed that. There's some tips and tricks for World War Armies PvP RTS. Let me know what you guys think in the comments. Let me know if there's any tips you have for me. Maybe tips I haven't thought about. Really interested to hear what you guys have to say about the game as well. And let me know what you guys want in future videos, because I'm definitely going to be making more videos for this game. I'm really enjoying it. I think it's a lot of fun. So let me know what you guys want to see.